cannot happen without technocracy. And this is why technocracy as a system of government is different from anything that we've ever witnessed before in this iteration. And because technocracy comes with an evil twin, which is transhumanism. So democracy could not facilitate transhumanism by itself. Capitalism could not facilitate transhumanism by itself. And so technocracy or neo-technocracy is really what is capable, able to facilitate that evil, which is transhumanism. This is why technocracy as a system of government is different from anything that we've ever witnessed. Thing about it is that we need to, why do we need to know about this? Yeah, why do we need to know? It's because there's going to be two classes. At some point, the color of your skin isn't going to matter. And the idea of who you think you are isn't really going to matter. Because what technocracy and transhumanism do is that they divide humanity into just two groups. And one group is really the slave class. And the other group is the enslaver class. Transhumanism is as evil as it is because these transhumanists, their plan is to live forever and to travel intergalactically. They have all come together. We were watching this, you see, to see at what point would they all come together before you can say, yes, this is where we are now. And it is at this point. It's an inflection point. It is true. This is a point at which they've all come together. And it is a very scary thing when you really look at it seriously. What it's saying to me, though, is that as a people, for ourselves, we have to recognize that we are on our own. And by being on our own, I mean as a people, not individually, but as a people, we're on our own. Being on our own is something that we have not yet grasped. We've been on our own for a while. And we're taking some time to figure it out. What does it mean? And then at the end of the day, if that is so, then what do we do? See, these questions are a little bit late. But it's not too late for us to figure out what time of day it is. There is a lot of conversation going on now. Oh, let me take a break. Right, so, for me, I think that we need a sit down as a nation, as a people, and we need adults in the room. We need calm and critical thinking. We need deep thinking. And this is not the time for the kind of tribalism that Jamaica is experiencing right now. This is not the time for the kind of vitriol and violence that Jamaica is perpetrating against itself, led by the two gangs, the two factions, the two political factions. This is really not the time for it. But here we are, more divisive than ever before, and we're focused on who's going to win the election, and we're cussing each other, and we're tearing down institutions and tearing down each other. But this is what is necessary to complete the enslavement of an entire nation of people. So whether it's deliberate or it is manipulated, everything that we see happening around us here in Jamaica with the tribal politics is meant to prepare us for another period of enslavement. How authoritarian regimes seem to be having more influence, and there seems to be a threat to what people are calling democratic values and what we know as global stability. We have had many discussions in this space about the geopolitical tensions, the escalating conflicts. We have the discussions now on Ukraine, on Palestine, on Taiwan, and there's a lot to say about Ukraine regarding the military-industrial complex. And I suppose at some point I'll get a chance to talk about it. But the question has been asked, and a lot of people are asking this, you know, why, if say Donald Trump is saying that he needs peace on the one hand, and Zelensky is pushing back at peace, so it would appear, and the European Union is pushing back at peace, or so it would appear, and the British monarchy has got involved, and the King of England is meeting with the comedian from Ukraine, and they come out of all those meetings, and the solution is war, and more war, and more war. And you ask yourself why. The military-industrial complex is an interesting complex that we have to look at. And when we get a chance, we can, hopefully this morning, I'll take you through some of what is important about all of this, including the fact that a lot of these economies are failing, and war is propping up these economies. The military-industrial complex, if you listen closely to the military equipment, the resources that's needed for war, the airplanes and the weapons and the vehicles and the human resources, and so everything that's needed for war is supplied by manufacturing companies that make these things, make the warplanes, make the guns, make the weapons, make all these things. And there are a handful of these companies across the world. These are billion companies with profits in the billions and the trillions. And a lot of these manufacturing, when we talk about the military-industrial complex, we're talking about all of this, right? Inclusive of these companies that are benefiting. But these companies are not necessarily private owned. And you're lucky if you find one that is private owned. 99% or so of them are owned by governments. So the UK owns a handful, maybe 5 or 6 of these gun-making, weapon-making, complexes. America owned a whole lot of them. France owned a whole heap of them. Germany, too, owns some. And so whatever monies, it's like money laundering. You know, all these monies that are being made available through however and whoever, those monies go right back into those economies. And that is why war is beneficial to them. It's them same one getting back the monies. I can give you the names of the companies, all of these companies, and and who own them, which government own them, and which country them in. Hopefully I can do that this morning. So war is lucrative. They're going to war for profit, for hardly anything else. And they'll kill millions just for profit. So they're propping up their economies for profit and power, of course. So they're propping up their economies. This is basically what it is. Donald Trump is speaking honestly about a lot of this when he talks about the mineral deals. And, while Donald Trump is out here talking about Ukraine has to sign a mineral deal, for example, and they have to sign this before we go any further. Britain, in January, underhandedly, if you will, if you're speaking from the perspective of the United States, signed such a deal with Ukraine. And so there's a tug-of-war for Ukraine's land. And then Russia says, but, Ukraine land is just a little bit of that. I've got a whole lot of what you need. I'll sign. So this is not about people's lives. This is about a grab for power. Yesterday they had a summit in the United States, and it's a precursor to the bigger summit that's coming up March 17, I think. And it's a summit on digital currency. So when we're jumping, hopping, and skipping, and I don't know how many, my economics, so I did economics in sixth form. Econ, we call it back in sixth form. I don't know if I remember nothing from it, but I do know this, though, that when we see and hear all of this discussion around us, and this is geopolitical, this is global now, but all of this discussion around us about the stock market and the market crashing and the economy and what is this person doing in the economy, and a lot of this has to happen, literally. How do you bring in a new order, a new economic financial order? How do you bring in a new system? How do you reset this? Because we're talking about the Great Reset, so the fourth industrial revolution. How do we move from dollars to digital currency? Can you just go smoothly, or something have to crash? Can you move smoothly into the digital currency? Do you first have to crash the dollar, or is the dollar going to crash itself? And how that rebound on the market? Do you have to crash the market so that people literally scramble and beg you for whatever it is that you have out there planning to replace this thing that is so not stable, unstable? So for me, everything is going as planned. There's this big concern and this reporting. If you watch some of these liberal media outlets like CNN and the NBCs, MSNBCs, and all of those, they spend a lot of time, Bloomberg does it too, they spend a lot of time talking about the market and the market and the market. And I'm over here thinking, but there's a thing happening over there. There's a thingy. I want to say to them, there's a digital summit going on right now as you're talking about the market. They're meeting in the White House. And look around the table. It is technocracy in motion. Look around the table. They're meeting on the digital currency. But not only that, March, they've got a bigger date coming for a global digital summit, March 17 to 25 or something like that. So there are challenges, obviously, to moving into the digital currency era, into, bitcoins and cryptocurrencies and so on. But government want to control, so we're looking at a whole different thing. And remember when we did this program in 2020, when we talked about that this is where the lockdown was going to lead to the introduction of the digital currency, remember that one of the main questions that I asked every single week through all of the lockdown, when we're discussing the fact that this is where we're heading, was how is it going to work? Because if governments want to control, it's going to be a whole different thing. And so if governments are going to control this, then they're going to have to crash the market. Remember we said that in 2020, How are they going to do this? Because we see people who are doing this on the fringes. And for those who are doing it, private people who are doing this on the fringes, they were doing what they're doing. But, Bankman Free, this young man who is in prison, who Tucker Carlson interviewed last week, and now he's in solitary confinement. He was out there with his cryptocurrency thingy, and became a billionaire, gave all his money to the Democrats, and then the Biden administration, and before that. And then if you listen to the interview that he did with Tucker Carlson last week, he said that they shafted him. Because remember, that whole thing crashed around him. and he's now in prison. The prison Department of Justice said they didn't know he was about to do that interview, and so that he's now, in solitary confinement as we speak. But once again, I just want to underscore, everything is connected. I don't know if I'm making sense. If I'm not making sense, let me know. If I'm making sense, let me know also. So basically, this is how I see this whole thing unfolding. So the markets matter now up to a point, but they're moving away from things as we know it. So the whole financial industry, we're moving away from it as we know it. We're going into a digital age, which is going to be led, or is being led, by the technocrats. And this is not the usual definition of technocrats that we know. It goes beyond that, because we're going beyond the technocrats to technocracy, which is coupled with another thing, which is transhumanism. So I wanted to kind of foreground that, to say everything is unfolding as it was planned to unfold, and everything else is just a distraction. So they're saying, look over here, the whole immigration talk is part of technocracy. This is how technocracy works. So technocracy has features, just like how you have features of democracy. We've got features of technocracy. So this rise of the so-called right, which it doesn't make any sense to say the right, because whether it was the right or the left that were running things right now, it wouldn't matter, because this is a plan. This is where we are on the calendar. This is where we are. In other words, yes, we reach where there's now going to be a new world order, and they're calling it the Great Reset. So it is well underway. It is well underway. There's nothing strange about what's happening. The plan was always to be right where we are now. There appears to be challenges, and there are indeed challenges, because none of these changes are smooth. Elon Musk is a front. Donald Trump is a front. The program is running in the background. And this is why last week I talked about Palantir. There was one group that I was watching that hadn't entered into this whole thing yet, because everybody's now on board. And you remember I took you through that a few weeks ago. Nobody's left out of this, They're all on one side. If it was a boat, everything would have gone down, because everybody on one side. So all the technocrats, barring none, are now working with Donald Trump's government. And I say that deliberately in the way I couched it, to say it's just a time. And so everybody's gone over there. There was only just one group left. And now, I just saw last week that now that group has entered the chat gleefully, because Donald Trump came into power blazing big guns on his hip like Marty Robbins, and talked about Panama, and he's going to take back the Panama Canal, and because China is it, and China, what we do know is that China owned ports, and I'm using the past tense because I think they probably sell it already, but anyway, so China owned ports, near to the Panama Canal. China wasn't really operating the canal, but, those massive ports that China owned right at the Panama Canal, because Panama, of course, entered into a deal with China. So, as all of the countries did, including Jamaica. But now, with all of the guns from the hip firing coming from Donald Trump, China did something interesting. First of all, Panama said, all right, so we're going to break the Silk Road Agreement with China. And I suppose China got the message. I don't know, how they were able to do that. So I'm not quite sure what the ins and outs of that are, but it is worth noting, especially for Jamaica, because in the way that Trump and that regime has gone off after Panama, we can look to Jamaica in short order, because this is a Cold War that is like none other that we've ever seen. I'm going to come back to the Cold War situation. This Cold War is between China, the United States and China. Now, so Panama, says that they're breaking the Silk Road Agreement. What happened? The ports are still there. They're right next to the Panama Canal. America is about to put boots on the ground to change that status quo. China is not one for arm-to-arm combat. They're not ready for that. This is not in the white paper. They're not planning for this right now. They do very well with the Cold War, the trade war. And so they're selling the ports. So who are they selling the ports to? Here comes the only grouping that you never heard as part of this whole great reset that are on the one side and the one side of the board, the BlackRock group. BlackRock is buying the ports. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us everything that we need to know, and then some. Because BlackRock, all this time, do you recall that let me go back to 2020, that in 2020 and all the way from 2020 until now, one of the things that I say in this space from time to time, that if you really want to know who's running things, who control things, we used to say the Illuminati, we talk about the Bohemian Grove. I mean, there are so many names, Deep State, etc., etc. Well, BlackRock was always part of that. Well, here comes BlackRock, throwing their hats in the ring. And what that tells us right now is that BlackRock is part of the Great Reset. Right? The Great Reset, the New World Order. It is all happening. It is nothing for us to be afraid of or to be scared of. What it is for us is to understand that we are on our own as a people and we are left out of all of this. So what are we to do and how do we do it? These are the questions that we must be asking ourselves, asking of our governments, and we must also be watching our governments very, very, very carefully. Because one thing we know about Jamaica in particular is that Jamaica is very good at selling the people of Jamaica to foreign operatives. So they have determined that we are a service nation. That is an official protocol. That's an official policy of the government of Jamaica, that Jamaica is a service nation. Hence, the BPOs, even though them scamming Taylor Swift out of our ticket money, the tourism industry, and everything in between and on the fringes. So every thought coming out of the synagogue of Satan, which is the Parliament of Jamaica, every thought coming from both sides in terms of development is connected back to service, but not service in terms of how we understand service to each other. You are my brother, you are my sister. But service in that you have now sold our labor as cheap labor to foreign operatives. And you make it so that our education system is dirt, is filth, is nothing. So that majority of our young people are leaving high schools at fifth form unable to read beyond a grade 1 level. They are graduating and can only read at the grade 1 level because it is a line straight from womb through to the prison of school into the plantation tourism or BPO. So you deliberately dumb down the young people of Jamaica. You make it so that education is not reachable for many of them. For more, that quality education is unreachable for most of Jamaica's young people. Over years you've been doing this, over years. And then you shuttle them into what you determine Jamaica's industry to be, which is a main industry, which is a service industry. And they get minimum wage. And then you give them a house. You call it social housing. You give them a house here and a house there, but you never teach them to build their own house. They were never architects. They were never farmers. They were never landowners. So at some point, they're going to come to you for patronage. It's a mafia business. It's a Don Corleone business that the government of Jamaica is pulling off on the people of Jamaica. So you call them like the Godfather, and you offer them a house, and them go up on a microphone and them tell you how good you are, and you sit with your head down on your phone pretending not to bask in the accolades, and then you post it on your social media and you leave. And you leave. So this is where we are as a nation. This is our reality. It is what it is. We have to deal with the isness of things. We have to name the things, to treat the things. We have to name the things, to cure the things. And until we are willing to face our reality on this island of Jamaica, it don't matter how much a great reset or great the great reset it. It doesn't matter how the new world order is up on our heads. It don't matter technocracy and transhumanism, because we're going to die anyway. And we're going to die suffering anyway until we can name our condition and treat our condition. Name our condition to treat our condition. I'll try and come back to transhumanism and technocracy in a while, but, you know, we are hearing, it's all over the news, that there is an area in Kingston on the Palisades, Rocky Point, that has been desecrated, massacred. The mangroves, young mangroves ripped up unceremoniously, torn from the earth. To the point I'm making, which is that our education does not provide or prepare us to be decent human beings, to be citizens, and to understand the relationship between the environment, between the land, and our very existence. And that is deliberate. So that is why bulldozers could be sent to Rocky Point. Is it Rocky Point? What's the name of that place out there on the Palisades where they sent those bulldozers? And to rip up mangroves. Because even to the point that you were sent, at every level, there seemed to have been no awareness, no intelligence of the relevance of the land and the connection of the land to our very existence. That you're ripping up mangroves, that you're not even able to identify what is a wetland, and how important this area is. And where was the Jamaica National Heritage Trust in all of this? Because isn't that area protected area? I would have thought so. Fort Rocky, it's called. Fort Rocky. Thank you for sending me that. Fort Rocky. It's a very interesting situation that's unfolding there. Thank you. I got the name. Quite a few persons are sending me the name. Fort Rocky. Fort Rocky is a place, not Rocky Point. But Fort Rocky was declared an entertainment zone, if you recall, by the Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport a while back. And many of us said at the time, what a strange thing. It doesn't make any sense. That is fully done. That's mad, sick head, no good. But it happened. So who sent those bulldozers? We have no trust in NEPA. NEPA, the National Environment and Planning Agency. We must find another. NEPA doesn't work in the interest of the people of Jamaica. So I wouldn't even ask about NEPA. The egregious thing about that, though, is that they're supposed to. But what is the mandate of NEPA? The Jamaica National Heritage Trust. Goodness gracious me. Can you imagine the flora, the fauna, the animal, the people? Can you imagine? When I looked at that, I saw the pictures and the videos of what they've done to that piece of land there, going on the Palisades. My entire body went into spasm. I was in a state of shock. I couldn't believe that anyone would be so mad, so crazy, so out of their mind to rip up mangrove, to move all the trees away from the seaside, to bulldoze it down. And the ultimate aim is to build a parking lot, to put metals, to put cars, and for a dance. This is how serious our situation is. Our education hasn't prepared us for that understanding of a connection between the land, the mangrove, the sea, and our very existence. So them dig it down. It looks like a serious cavity. It looks like it's a desecration of a sacred space. That's how it looks. It makes you. I'm not quite sure if you don't look at this and feel, if the tears don't run from your eye, but it run in your heart, it run in your soul, it run in your body, it run through your veins, then it tells you what time of day it is. I don't have much more to say about this, apart from to say how disappointed I am. How disappointed I am that so many agencies would have been involved in this, to the point where so much land was cleared to build a parking lot, to park car and to have parties. Because this is in Jamaica now, we're selling, and the entertainment value is what we're selling. And, it's nothing wrong with the entertainment value, but we have disconnected the entertainment value from the cultural value, the environmental value. And so that, because you tear it all apart like that, entertainment stands by itself, and that's all you care about. So whether or not the artists, them mad, sick head, no good, whether them fully done, don't matter. You're giving them the biggest stage. And at the same time, you're creating spaces for these entertainment events that are devoid from the culture of Jamaica, the environmental culture and the agri-culture of Jamaica. So that somebody, in their madness, somebody in their, this is the madness of King George. Somebody in their madness signed off on the bulldozing of the mangrove area, the protected area, I think named so by the very same environmental agencies and probably the Jamaica National Heritage Trust. A protected space that you've signed off on tearing that down, ripping that out, desecrating that space to park cars because you're going to have a party. Understand the party is to be March 15. Beware the Ides of March. Beware the Ides of March because the mangroves are weeping still. And all the history of that land weeping still. And this is happening right across Jamaica because if you go into, and this is wetlands we're talking about, but if you go into the watershed, one of Jamaica's most important watershed areas is Roaring River, the Rio Bueno watershed area, Roaring River, where the Roaring River appears in St. Ann, Miami Bay. If you go there now, you'll be shocked to see what the government of Jamaica has authorized in the watershed area, the Roaring River watershed area. There's no long-term planning. We're depending on plantation tourism. And China is about to build a Chinatown. China told us 10 years ago that it's a Chinatown that they were building there. If you go to change.org right now, you'll see that at that time I started a petition entitled, "Please do not give the Roaring River lands to China." And in the description of that petition, I wrote that this was a plan to build a Chinatown. But here we are. Here we are. On this side, we have that happening. And in Fort Rocky, we see what's happening. Let me take a break. The inaugural conference of storytelling clubs of Jamaica, and this is going to be happening at the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Library on Thursday, March 20 at 9:45 a.m. Remember now, stand by for that because you're invited to bring your stories and come celebrate World Storytelling Day. Blackwood Meeks joins me at 8 o'clock. And then later on, we continue our discussion with Dr. Leslie Gale Atkinson, Swaby, on the indigenous people, the first inhabitants. And this morning, we're going to be focusing on the Tainos. So one of the things that I've noticed over time, so let me see if I can do this in 10 minutes, is that there's been a great misunderstanding, and I take a lot for granted. So my bad, pardon me, pardonnez-moi. I talk about technocracy and its evil twin, transhumanism, a lot, and I take a lot for granted. But I'm finding out over the last few days, just from having conversations with you, generally over time, about this very issue. And so I'm finding out as I go along that a lot of people do not understand when we talk about transhumanism, what we're talking about. I think there's not necessarily any further research for many, and so that leaves them with whether or not this is related to sexuality, and this is what I am getting, and it's the weirdest thing. So I took this for granted. Once again, my apologies. And I thought that this morning I spent 5 or so minutes just to say what transhumanism is. Majority of the people who are around Donald Trump right now are transhumanists. If you listen to Steve Bannon, who has been a trusted friend and advisor to Donald Trump, went to prison for him and all of that over the years, one of the reasons he said he has walked away from being so involved this time around, he said, these guys are transhumanists. These are the people around Donald Trump, those who are very close to him. He says they are transhumanists, and I want to have no part of that. Now, he's not the only one who's been talking about it, but this is not a secret. It's out there. Palantir advertises a whole lot on the channels such as Newsmax and Fox and some of those other channels. You see a lot of ads from Palantir. Look at that in the background. Look at that, Palantir. I would say, do a lot of research on Palantir. Also, know that Elon Musk himself is a transhumanist. Peter Thiel is a transhumanist. The top echelon of the Heritage Foundation. Heritage Foundation is responsible for writing the document, Project 2025. 40% of Project 2025 has already been implemented in the first month of Donald Trump's government. So read Project 2025. Those people are transhumanists. And so too is Musk, Thiel, and so many. I mean, it's a whole bunch of transhumanists who have come into the space, and they've come in also as technocrats. They're part of the technocracy, which is interesting. So basically, when we talk about transhumanism, we're talking about a philosophy that speaks to transforming the human condition by developing and creating advanced technologies to enhance human intellectual, physical, and psychological capacities. In other words, it is not it looks like a robot, but it's a hybrid human. It's you who will be enhanced, you the human being. And so the core idea of transhumanism is to use science and technology and the innovation that we currently have, the 5G, the 6G technology, and so on, to overcome human limitations. So that's why they talk about extending the human lifespan or achieving immortality, living forever. Also cognitive enhancement, which is improving the intelligence and memory and the cognitive abilities. And this is why Neuralink, which is fronted by Elon Musk, this is why Neuralink is speaking so specifically to the health benefits of transhumanism. So it is transhumanism right in front of our eyes, right? It's in front of us, but it has been couched in the language of medicine. But it's far beyond medicine. This is where Elon Musk goes. He goes to the cognitive enhancement, the improving the memory and improving the cognitive abilities and so on. But obviously it is far beyond that. Also, there's a physical augmentation, which is enhancing the physical abilities through what we see Elon Musk talking about, the prosthesis, the implants, and the other technologies. So it really delves into the using artificial intelligence, using biotechnology, using nanotechnology, using neurotechnology, and of course robotics. And you notice we say, and of course robotics. So we talk, it's 5 things that, you know. So when we talk about transhumanism, it's not just about robots. As a matter of fact, I would say robots is the least of it, right? So they talk about improving human life and abilities and capabilities if you're in an accident and so on and so forth. But there's just so much involved in that. There are ethical questions, which is why people like Steve Bannon has walked away from it. What does it mean to be human? That is being redefined under transhumanism. And but this is where we are now. What does it mean to be human? Because once Neuralink and the others are done with us, then how do you define human? Also, and we talk about ethical questions. Will these technologies exacerbate existing inequalities? No, that is a question that I have stopped on, if you realize. Existing inequalities. Because if you're able to look down the road, basically, what is about to happen, which has already happened, is that the slave class is clearly defined. Clearly defined. And may the ancestors help us. Africa, continental Africa, and its diaspora are caught in the headlights. This is basically what this is. Who is going to ensure that these technologies are used responsibly? That is a question. So, yes, we need to have these conversations. We need to be talking about them. Because a lot of things over time seem far-fetched. Let me just put something in perspective. It's almost, what now? 10, 15, is it almost 12 years that I first raised the question of the Roaring River watershed and that China was going to build a Chinatown there. I can tell you what happened to me personally as a result of that, of me staying on that and not moving. That was going to happen. I am not going to do that this morning because I don't even want to recall some of those things. And we could go on and on and on, but yeah. If you begin to study, and study, I think, is what it takes. And by study, I mean SWOT anything. Just be curious about what's happening. And academia has a responsibility to filter things through the nation. We would think that this is a job. It's not a job of politics. It's our job to rein in politics and the politicians for making some of the most serious mistakes during this time. I see where Jamaica has now made it possible for people from the Dominican Republic to come into the island visa-free. That is a segue. But it connected still. Because we haven't even stopped as a nation to censure or sanction or rebuke the Dominican Republic for its treatment of Haitians. We are arms in arms in bed with the Dominican Republic. Jamaica's best friend in the Caribbean is the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is the most racist country in the Caribbean right now. Racist against everybody who black, whether they come from Haiti or otherwise. And what they're doing to Haitians is unforgivable. And how does Jamaica repay the Dominican Republic? First, you give the Prime Minister of the Dominican Republic the highest order that a nation can give to anyone. The highest order. Secondly, you free up the border so people from the Dominican Republic can come in clearly. We need to see. Do you know that the Dominican Republic is also the favorite child of the United States in the region? The Dominican Republic is a favorite child of the United States. It doesn't have to be a part of CARICOM. I think it has some kind of special status at CARICOM. CARICOM needs to be dissolved and a better regional organization formed in the interest of the people of the region. These are the kinds of things that Jamaicans will do. There are just too much dunce people running Jamaica. This is, and by dunce I don't mean book learning. I mean lack vision, lack intelligence, lack the ability to think critically, to think deeply, to see. If without vision the people perish, for crying out loud. Don't even know how to tell. I don't know what to expect from, the political element of Jamaica. We can't tell them about technocracy and transhumanism. When we say they're going to think by transhumanism, that would mean transgender. That would have something to do with people's sexuality. That's what they're going to think. Look at Roundup. Look at Roundup. Look at GMOs. Look at what Jamaica is doing at the Codex Alimentarius, the Codex. Well, we have a problem. I don't know. I don't know. I think we, the people, we are going to have to be the change that we want to see, and we're going to have to reject. We're going to have to reject anything that's coming at us that is not good for us. That's basically it. That is how I'm seeing it. We have a lot to talk about. I promise you that I'm going to interview I'm going to interview myself. I hope that I know that I have to spend some time talking about technocracy, and I do know that I have to spend some time talking about transhumanism. This I'm very, very clear on. I also have to put this whole thing in the geopolitical context, which we have been trying to do since the beginning, since December, actually. And we'll continue on this track to just to flesh things out for a better understanding of where we are and what is our responsibility. Because not so much what them doing, it is what are we about and what are we supposed to do? How are we going to survive? I keep pointing to agriculture as being one of the most important things that we can do to protect ourselves, to survive. It's an existential crisis, to prevent the enslavement of our people. And I still hold that it is the most critical thing for us right now, to go back to the land, to ensure that we can feed ourselves. This, to me, is critical. And once the land is there, we can house ourselves. Once the land is there, we can feed ourselves. So there's food, shelter. These are the two most important things. And once the land is there, we can use whatever upon the land to make clothes and shoes, if it comes to that. This is basically it. And I'm not saying that this is like we're near to this next week. I'm just saying the trajectory, and it's a program that is running in the background. We're not blind. People are hoping that tomorrow somebody will rise up and overthrow the U.S. government as it is now. And once that has happened, then everything will change. Nothing will change. Nobody's going to overthrow the government. Nothing will change. Because it doesn't matter who comes in. The program is running in the background. It's set already. This is a great reset. What do you think people are going to do with 6G technology? What do you think people are going to do with 3D printing? What do you think people are going to do with the technology that is available? They are already doing it. They cloned Dolly the sheep many moons ago. And nobody has stopped to ask how many other people them cloned since Dolly the sheep. Didn't you see how many Joe Bidens were walking around? I know it sounds weird, but go back and look. There are about 5 or 6 of them. And I don't know how many Donald Trumps there are. It is what it is. I deal with the business of things. My eyes not fooling me. Time when I refer is 8 o'clock. I'm going to join Amina's storytelling, because I think this is where I might do better. All right, we go to the phone lines online. Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks, and we're going to be talking about the inaugural conference of storytelling clubs of Jamaica. Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks is the founder, artistic director of Ntukuma, the Storytelling Foundation of Jamaica, and she joins me online. Amina, my sister, good morning.
Good morning, my sister. Please allow me to put in a chapter to the many stories you just told.
Okay, go ahead. Yes.
Our farmers must be paid.
Yes.
People who sell rum, rich. People who push drugs, rich. And our farmers who keep us alive are poor. Our farmers must be financially rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
And agriculture must be taught in schools as science,
Yes.
Not something you do when you can't do anything else and you go and you duck the ground and hope that something happens, and listen when rather tell you that prepare to lose 1/3 of everything you plant. And then the rest of the world, I hope that we are learning from the current global situation that all of us need to be self-sufficient. That's the only way that the USA will stop behaving like a gang leader and hold the rest of us to ransom.
Yes.
If it is one thing which has been revealed, is how the whole world that have all the resources, the mineral, the gold, the cocoa, the coffee, the everything, is dependent on a place that doesn't have anything. That has to be wrong. And let me join you in your madness, because people don't believe that you can actually clone human beings. But there is a book that was made into a movie many years ago based on historical facts called The Boys from Brazil. And it was about an attempt to recreate Hitler. And so basically what happened was that a reporter from Vienna was found murdered. And they went to a family to say, what do you know about this man? And they saw this boy with the most piercing blue eyes, and they couldn't forget it. And then a couple more murders happened, and then go to another family and see the same boy and say, I wonder if they move. Was this child adopted? Until them find 6 of him. And then say, back up, what is going on here? And 6 of them had been created or recreated under the circumstances and placed in homes under the circumstances within which Hitler grew up. Because them had to make sure that nurture and nature came together.
Yes.
And everybody can go look it up. The Boys
from Brazil. Yes, thank you for that, Amina.
And see what happened there, to know that this happening before.
Yes.
His name just came back to me, Mengele. This the angel of death. And this that's Hitler's angel of death.
Yes.
And this happened before Dali.
And exactly. And you see, but what I find really interesting, Amina, is that, that was a perfect scientific innovation, and you said that even before that, but Dolly, we know what Dolly was, and Dolly lived for a long time, so the science is there, the technology is there, the ability to do this is there. You can clone anything. You're just depending on the ethics now, whether or not people behave in an ethical way, not to clone human beings.
Cloning people not have no ethics.
But that's the point.
Ethics, not in the same sentence. Them in a different sentence. That name, jail sentence, was not in the sentence that we speak.
They're not in the same sentence.
No.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that is a good segue to take us now to another sentence, which is the inaugural conference of Storytelling Clubs of Jamaica. I want to start at the storytelling clubs, Who are they? Where are they? Right. And yes, a little bit about them.
It's an idea whose time came a long time ago.
Yes.
And a long time ago, we approached some cultural agencies. Amongst them is one of the chief partners of Entukuma, which is the Jamaica Library Service, to say, look here, there is so much disenchantment with the world. And we saw that during COVID, how disenchanted we are. Yes. And there are many people who have written about the power of storytelling to re-enchant ourselves. And there are so many stories about who we are and what we have given to the world that have the potential to enrich, to save us, to unify us, that we don't know. And so Entukuma went on its own research, and in 2022 we dug up 2 stories which we published on our 2023 calendar. And the story was about or how Jamaica give the world, this is how we put it, Jamaica give the world the rules for football.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Tainos then used to play them game.
Mm-hmm.
At that age.
Yes.
And there was a little girl who was just a wizard at this game.
Mm-hmm.
And there was going to be a regional, may I call it that now, World Cup tournament of this game in Puerto Rico.
Yes.
And all the Tainos from around the region go to this game.
Mm-hmm.
And Jamaica carried this little girl whose name I can't pronounce properly, Raygua. So I need to brush up on how to pronounce that. Okay. And so my Taino friends need to advise me.
Well, I have Dr. Leslie Gale Atkinson Swaby coming on right after you. Raygua.
Yes.
Yes.
You sure what up is them?
I'm telling you, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So when the Jamaican team arrived in Puerto Rico with this little girl, them laugh her to scan. You know, no say a world tournament we have. Where I go with this little picnic. To cut a long story short, Jamaica won the tournament.
Of course.
And she was the man of the match.
Yes.
And when the Spaniards came, they taught the Spaniards the game and all the rules of the game, which evolved into the rules of football. Right? So that's one story that we actually dug up and published.
Yes.
The second story is about Jamaica's contribution to the Industrial Revolution. When the man out at Reader's Pen in St. Thomas saw that the Africans came as metallurgists and were making equipment now to make the plantation run a little more efficient, he did not see efficiency because that is not his headspace. Him say, but if them people here can do this, them not so make bullet and start kill we are. Make us just mash up the things that they have made.
Yes.
And so they did. But another plantation owner collected the pieces and said, no man, this thing have use. And carry it go to England and patent it. And without it, there would have been no industrial revolution.
Exactly. So
we have these stories to tell, and each parish has a unique set of stories about themselves, about people who evolved in their community, like Cicely Williams and T.P. Lecky at two different ends of the island, Westmoreland and Portland. But people in Westmoreland don't know Westmoreland story.
Right.
Much more to go know the Portland story and vice versa.
Exactly.
And we can do any permutations on that.
Yes.
Last year, our storytelling festival, which always has a theme, the theme was Discover Anansi, Discover Jamaica. And we wrote a number of stories about where Anansi visiting and planted clues, and the children had to guess. But when we came together in the workshop to talk about how to find the stories and how to craft them into performance pieces, you know, say people in a Clarendon tell we say, them not know nothing unique about Clarendon.
Oh.
And we had to say the fishing village, the alley church.
I hear you.
Help us, Lord.
Yeah.
Help us. How did our stories become invisible?
Yes, a very good question. Very good question. As every time I sit in Tukuma, I remember how that was a word that was always part of our nighttime before we go to bed, because our father always tell us a story about Tukuma and Bernancy. And even as you spoke, I thought to myself, you know, thank you, Amina, for curating for a literary archaeology. And literally,
I love it. Can I have it?
I know, Phoebe. Hold on. Can I just say something? A very inventive from.
No, we borrow it. We are sharing it.
Yes, go on with it, Amina. Run with it, Amina. Run with it.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. It is basically what it is. But beautiful. So, On Thursday
we're
now.
Working with the library. We're working with the library. And clubs can be set up in schools, in communities, and in the libraries. And a critical thing about the club is that each club must have at least one senior citizen. So we have advised the National Council of Senior Citizens that we're doing this thing, and there is no uncovering or rediscovering who we are without our elders. So we want them in the club. So the conference on the 20th of March, which is World Storytelling Day, is going to be at 10 o'clock at the Tom Redcom Library, which really is the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Library. But all of us grew up and call it the Tom Redcom Library.
Yes, sir.
There will be a couple of performances of stories, but the aim of the conference is to make sure that all the attendees leave with a structure. And leave with the knowledge that we are looking for values-based stories from your location. And that could be about the name of your school, about how long the church is. That could be about how the first principal of the school used to cook ackee and saltfish.
Yes.
And it could also be the history of the dome in Falmouth, for example. But when I travel around Jamaica and I go out of Kingston, I hear the same Kingston song and the same Kingston dance, and then the dominance of the culture that has been created in Kingston overshadows the uniqueness of the parishes. And so we want to get back to that place where we are, where Marcus Garvey said, we are astonished by that which we have to give to the world.
So basically, for those who are coming on, do they contact you first, or people just turn up with them stories?
They could contact us first.
Okay.
What is the number? 225-9591. One teacher and 5 students, because the library can't hold 1,000 people. So one teacher and 5 students. We want to be seated by 9:45 a.m. So we have a prompt 10 o'clock start. And part of what will happen in that conference this year, and Tukuma launches its children's theater season for Child Month.
Yes.
So we're also looking at applied storytelling. And so we're going to open at Little Theatre on the 15th of May and run until the 2nd of June. And at the conference, we're doing an excerpt from that production so that people can begin to make their bookings for their schools to attend. Can I tell you what the production is called?
Yes.
It's a calabash to save the world. And it is, and Nancy bring whole heap of science down in one calabash.
Yes.
And there are some Jamaicans who went into the calabash and take out for them share. And then named T.P. Leckie, Cicely Williams, and Mandy West.
I love it. Yes.
We want our children to know that they are scientists. That science is not something removed from who we are, or that we should be afraid of, or that the next book can say Madonna St. Thomas and science, and all of these. We do not do.
Yes. But
but it is the full range.
Yes. It is so important, I think, to kind of to change the narrative, to redefine the whole thing. And we say redefine because I already defined. It's just that we somehow seem to have lost it along the way. So I kind of I like the Sankofa-ness of it. Kind of returning to the source. So much that we have generations, millennials, Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, and whatever one after that name, who really don't necessarily have this kind of relationship with Jamaica's storytelling or Jamaican's literary vibe, which I see you bringing back. So who is this open to?
This is open to Yeah, let me just add to that, there are stories that we have variations of.
Yes.
And I have learned that happily through my students, that you come from a parish with a body of water, a pond, whatever we call it, a river, and each parish have a different version of River Muma. And a different version of what she looks like and what she does. And so we have learned not to say that's not how the story goes.
Right.
Because Marjorie Wiley has taught us that where the folk songs are concerned, there is something called traveling melodies. The folk song leaves Kingston and go to St. Catherine and take on the flavor and whatever is current in St. Catherine. And so that's just the St. Catherine version.
Yes.
And so we say our stories have traveling melodies to them.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
Yes.
I mean, can you hold event itself?
We want storytelling clubs all over Jamaica. We have the structure and we have the guidelines.
Yes.
We already have about 25 clubs that are registered to attend. If you call us at 876-225-9591, we will send you the guidelines. The event happens on World Storytelling Day, Thursday, March 20, at 10 o'clock in the morning. Be seated by 9:45. We're going to tell you some stories, some examples of the stories that we could be digging up. You will leave with a structure as to how you can set up your club, what we are calling value-based stories. And at that event, we are going to be doing an excerpt from our first children's storytelling production for May, which we hope will become a national event. Everybody is invited. Schools, libraries, senior citizens association, SDC groups, everybody. But for this occasion, we can only accommodate 5 per delegation.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks. And we talk soon. Yes, you too.
Archaeologist.
Yes, my dear. Go on with it. Thank you, Amina. You too.
All right.
A White House Crypto Summit that was on Friday. He told cryptocurrency leaders that he thought it was very important to help the industry. And the U.S. government currently has about 17 billion with a B in Bitcoin it acquired through criminal and civil asset forfeiture. So that's something to bear in mind. President Trump, who himself was a former crypto skeptic, said he was committed to making the United States a world leader in cryptocurrencies, he said that during the first ever White House Crypto Summit on Friday. The summit included crypto company executives, cabinet officials, and lawmakers, many of whom took turns raving about Trump's leadership on digital assets, and that the industry has been emboldened. They said it was unfairly treated by the Biden administration, and that Trump and other Republicans helped to score some wins in the last election. All right, so they are talking about strategic Bitcoin reserve, and he signed an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The reserve would essentially bar the U.S. government from selling Bitcoin it has acquired through criminal and civil asset forfeiture. The U.S. government currently has about 17 billion in Bitcoin. The order also allowed the Treasury and Commerce departments to come up with budget-neutral plans for the government to acquire additional Bitcoin, though no details of what those plans might look like have yet been released. Winners, join us again at 10:30 a.m. for another chance to win in Top Draw, dollars, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, hot pick and cash pot draws.
Here at HiPro, farming is in our DNA, so we know the value of all you do. HiPro, let's get it done together. The time by HiPro is
now 8:36. The indigenous people of Jamaica. Now, this morning we're focusing on the Tainos. But let me just quickly say that I know we're getting into what is called Commonwealth Day. If there's ever a name that we need to get rid of to decolonize ourselves and decolonize our minds, it's that grouping of people who are identifying as Commonwealth. So it's a British Commonwealth, by the way. And it seems to me as if nobody wants to get out from under it. They're all under that umbrella. It's like a disease like dementia and Alzheimer's, and I don't mean that lightly. So that's coming up on, I think it's tomorrow is Commonwealth Day. Already we've seen Charles the Third put out a message calling for unity. We need to tell him what to do with that message, but we can't do it on the radio. But in the meantime, what I would like to suggest for our people is that there's a book. I recommend books a lot in this space because we do have a book club. But there's a book I'm going to be recommending in the strongest way possible. I want us all to get a copy of this book. I wish there was a way I could get copies and just give them away. We need to read this book, and I'm going to implore, I'm begging you all, at least one of this book in every single home. It is called Britain's Black Debt. It is written by Hilary Beckles. Please read this book. You know, I'm to the point where I'm thinking that I need to probably read a paragraph per week or a chapter per week. I don't know if he's done an audio book, but in the meantime, please get a copy of this book for your homes. Read it a chapter per day or a chapter per week, but read it. Britain's Black Debt. And I think in a show of resistance to this so-called Commonwealth Day, we should all be reading, if even one paragraph, tomorrow. Let us read this. Let us take copies of it. Let us post it in our social media spaces. Tag the royal family. Tag the British government. Tag all of them, and tag your own governments. Because this whole idea of Commonwealth is ridiculous. We still remain under this umbrella. We still remain part of the British monarchy, and we're pussyfooting around talking about, you know, what kind of president we're supposed to have. We need to get ourselves from under the British monarchy. Anyway, I don't want to go off on that, but just to say, please read the book. Britain's Black Debt. Let me give you the full title. Britain's Black Debt. Reparations for Caribbean Slavery and Native Genocide. Britain's Black Debt by Hilary Beckles, Reparations for Caribbean Slavery and Native Genocide. We go to the phone lines now for my special guest, Dr. Leslie Gale Atkins-Aswaby, lecturer and archaeologist in the Department of History and Archaeology at the University of the West Indies, Mona campus. She edits a book, The Earliest Inhabitants, The Dynamics of the Jamaican Taino. Dr. Leslie Gale Atkins-Aswaby, good morning, my sister. Thank you so much for coming back.
Greetings, KABU. And I thoroughly endorse that recommendation, Britain's Black Debt, for as many readers across the island and across the region.
Yes.
That is indeed a very, very seminal volume, and and your arguments, about us seeking to be a republic and Commonwealth is very pointed, very pointed indeed.
Thank you so much, my sister. Thank you so much. And let me just say thank you so much, because last week, and you've been here before talking about the earliest inhabitants, but as usual, the responses have been like off the chain. Just people saying that, and I told you before, we didn't know this, we didn't know this, we didn't know this. And I'm saying to them, but we never know either. If we didn't know, we would have do it before, But so we're learning as we go along. And thank you so much for the research. Thank you for the work. Thank you for the publications. And for those who weren't here last week and the times before, we're going to take a minute or two just to start with the earliest inhabitants that we know before we segue into the Tainos, because we're focusing on the Tainos this morning. So once again, just remind us, Leslie, about the three earlier inhabitants before indigenous peoples, before the Tainos.
Well, it's specific to Jamaica, though.
Yes.
So we're talking about the ancestors of the Taino, the Ostinoid, who settled the island by the 7th century. Mm-hmm. And we're also talking about the Mayacoid, who we believe came over from our sister country, Haiti, by the 9th or 10th century. And then we do have variations of the Mayakoid that existed by the 12th, 13th century, known as the Fairfield Complex or Montego Bay style. And largely between, well, some sources look as far back as 10th, 11th century, but generally when we think of the Taino, we think about the development that takes place in the region as a resulting of the interaction of these earlier groups that forms what we know as the Taino culture, which is iconic with productions of wooden artifacts such as the doho, such as the semis, the ceremonial staff. These are some of the things that you see on display at the British Museum and also here in Jamaica at the National Gallery of Jamaica. Interestingly
enough, I have a short break, so it's as we talk about the Taino presence in Jamaica. Now, Leslie, all right, so let's look now then at, so the Tainos are indigenous to Jamaica.
To the Caribbean.
To the Caribbean. I mean, in terms of...
To the Caribbean and Jamaica, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The Tainos settled in the northern Lesser Antilles. They settled most of the Greater Antilles. The only the country in the Greater Antilles that doesn't have complete Taino distribution would be Cuba. They settled largely in central and eastern Cuba, but western Cuba is believed to be the Guanahatabey, or formerly the Siboney people. The Taino also settled in what is known as the Bahamian Archipelago, which comprises of Turks and Caicos Islands and the Bahamas.
Last week and the week before, you talked about the extent to which you do not believe, and how ridiculous it is too to think that entire peoples would have just died off like that or disappeared. When you talk about the other groups, the Austenites, the Marcoids, and so on, and you're saying
it's a general problem I have. Across the globe, where I think they underestimate how resilient humans and cultures can be, and one of our greatest skills of being a human is our adaptability, and I don't think we pay enough attention to that.
All right, from the archaeology, where in Jamaica are we seeing more Taino settlements than say in comparison to other places?
Well, that's a tricky question. So, all of Jamaica is Taino country. Jamaica is derived from a Taino word. It's funny though. One of the things we don't have to worry about is taking back the name Jamaica. We don't have to change that at all.
Yes.
When the Spanish came, they called us Santiago, and we reverted back to a derivation of the indigenous name. So there is Taino and their ancestors, their sites across Jamaica. Highest concentrations in terms of known sites that can be quantified are places like Clarendon, parishes like St. Catherine, St. Anne, St. Elizabeth, Manchester. It's widespread. The lowest distribution really to date would be Portland. But I think that is more about the fact that we haven't done enough intensive surveys of the eastern side of the island. A lot of the sites that are known without active investigations has really been because of response to development. So you find in areas where we're like the Jamaica National Heritage Trust is responding to proposed developments for highways and the toll roads and so forth. A lot of sites are discovered along those routes or confirmed along those routes. But in terms of active, somebody setting up a project, say, okay, we're going to focus on Eastern Jamaica, that really hasn't been done. The Southern Jamaica was also because of an active project. And, Portland Bight is really incredible. And I hope it is because it is perceived to be inaccessible to some extent, why it has led to the preservation of so many sites in that area. A number of them, of course, are associated with caves, but that area alone can contribute to about a third of the known sites, indigenous pre-European sites across the island, just that region alone, that has survived. Many sites have been destroyed because of development, whether housing, infrastructural, and I'm not against development, but I do believe that in developing we should be sustainable. I don't believe that we can save everything, but I don't think we've made enough effort in terms of the sites that have been saved. You know, in referring to the ancestors of the Taino, in archaeology, the first place you find evidence of a particular culture is referred to as a type site. So Little River, St. Anne, which is not far from Miami Bay and Ocho was a type site for the Ostinoid or the Red Ware people. That site has essentially been destroyed. I mean, that area is a big tourism belt, as you know. The Fairfield complex, which is the type site for the Montego Bay style or Fairfield complex, has also been largely destroyed due to housing development. Right? And then the only type site that we have remaining is White Mile, which is the type site for the Mayakoid or the White Mile people. And majority of that site has been destroyed due to infrastructure in terms of roads and housing communities and industrial, because that's a big industrial area. Only a quarter of the site remains. And that quarter that remains is continuously being threatened by development. So we're really not doing a good job. You know, it's interesting. We talk about the importance of things like tourism and talk about our culture and everything, but we don't really protect. We don't really protect it. And to protect it means that it must last for successive generations, and we really haven't done a good job as a people, not casting out
the indigenous peoples, and we've been doing this for a while. As you know, this morning we're focusing on the Tainos. Leslie, I don't know if you saw the story. It was in the UK Guardian this week. I think it was 2 days or so ago, talking about the Garifuna community in St. Vincent.
Or Honduras?
It says that they have. I think St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where they have. They have bought an island. I think it is. That it's a privately owned island, and they've said that thousands of their ancestors perished from disease and starvation on that island, Garifuna. So they have actually bought the island back, and I think this was just completed a few days ago, uninhabited island of Balisaux, Baliceaux.
Yes.
And they said this has long held great significance for the Garifuna people, the descendants of enslaved Africans and indigenous Kalinago and Arawak people. This was, I think, and there's all kind of celebrations happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I think Ralph Gonzalez is now in Jamaica. He probably should be found and asked a little bit about this, because this seemed to be pretty significant. And why I'm bringing that up is to say, within the context that you're talking just now, talking about understanding how ongoing colonialism is oppressive, and the extent to which people want them stuff back, want them things back. You know, I mean, just to say it parochially. But this, so we see this where they were able, but they had to buy it back. This is what happened with that island. What can you tell us, if anything, about this island that's off the Lavassa, that's off the coast of Jamaica, between Jamaica and Haiti? Do we know if indigenous people lived on that island? Do you know that island?
What island?
The Lavassa Island?
No,
Lavassa?
I never heard of that island.
There's an island.
How do you spell that?
Let me just get the correct spelling for you. There's an island between Jamaica and Haiti that is where only America can go on it now. I don't know if Jamaica even has access to that island, but it's out there, and the earthquakes or hurricanes don't seem to damage it at all. We're not quite sure what's happening there, but it's very important to both the UK and the United States. So I'm just wondering the extent to which I'm sure Taino people would have been on that island. I'm going to get you the correct spelling in a while. But how important are things like these? We're talking about entire islands now.
I mean, well, they would have of course exploited this space. It may have been a home. It may have been a temporary base for them to navigate from one section of the region to the another. I don't know specifically about this island, but in terms of just general approaches, in terms of our attitudes towards the island, towards the Caribbean Sea, and how interconnected the people are, I don't see why it wouldn't have been of importance. It is funny, we are trained to think of the sea as a divider, but for indigenous people, it is a way of connection. One of the things that we've realized is that the kinship relationships that exist across the region also was in existence in this pre-European period. So you do have families, you do have alliances that are taking place, and that I think they've really underestimated the navigation skills of the indigenous people. I mean, in terms of they're always talking about they couldn't have, but they clearly have. They had different types of vessels for their needs, and the fact that you have similarities in the languages, in terms of words that are borrowed, in terms of similarities in the traditions and so forth. One thing I should highlight, although we use the umbrella term of starting to research, and there is a lot of things that we don't know and that we should explore.
All right, let me spell the name of the island for you, Leslie. It's Navassa, Navassa Island. And Navassa, Navassa. And it is located between Haiti and Jamaica. I'm thinking that the Tainos would have been there before Columbus's arrival. I'm sure that they would have been there, considering everything.
Well, the funny thing about it is that on general maps of the Caribbean, it doesn't really pick up.
But so that's deliberate.
Yes, and then when you so it wasn't until you mentioned and I googled it, then you see small uninhabited island in the Caribbean Sea. So that is even closer than Haiti. So that is definitely I definitely would.
And if you go Google Maps, you'll see it, and it will tell you.
No, I am looking at it actually.
Okay.
And actually, it has my brain churning. Yes. As a interconnection point between the islands. Ooh, thank you for this.
You're most welcome. I give you that, and I raise you a Van Sertima.
You still must say, people fight all the time. That doesn't mean they don't love each other.
I know. But I have to wrap now, Leslie. But let me just give you the final word on the Tainos and we have lots of students listening, by the way.
Well, I just would like that people read more, and also be open. One of the problems I do have is probably how Indigenous people are represented in the curricula, and that is really at the primary and secondary level. I mean, it gets a little better when you reach a tertiary level in most instances. So I would also, for those of you, kinship matters, family matters. You heard KABU mention about the things her grandmother used to tell her. Listen. To your family. It is so important in terms of your sense of identity and who you are, in terms of your collective and cultural identity, to have an appreciation. Don't just dispel what your ancestors are saying by, you know, as just being, archaic things from the past. All these archaic things from the past are important. And especially for those of us who are interested in our own personal growth and journey in terms of, you know, where we fit in this complicated world. But, you know, in terms of connection, you know, whether your connection, you know, whether you choose to identify as an African, whether you choose to identify as multicultural or so forth, embrace these relationships, embrace these traditions. You know, heritage can only survive if there's a successive generation for it to be passed on to. You know, if that transmission is not successful, then it is lost. And it doesn't matter whether this is natural heritage, it doesn't matter whether it's cultural, whether it's tangible, whether it's intangible. We do need our younger generations to be open, you know, to preserve these, you know, historic and cultural traditions. And that is my hope, that the disconnect that exists now will be resolved, and that we have this continuity, because it does matter.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Leslie Gale Atkins Aswebe. As usual, my sister, I really appreciate you and appreciate your input in this space. Thank you so much.
Blessings, KABU, and thank you everyone for listening. Take care. Bye.
Okay, so Dr. Leslie Gale Atkins Aswebe there, The Earliest Inhabitants, The Dynamics of the Jamaican Taino, is a book edited by her. Please get a copy, please read it. It's really interesting to kind of just go back in our history, but to understand ourselves, you know, that's why we go back, to understand who we are and where we're going. We also spoke earlier about Britain's Black Debt, Reparations for Caribbean Slavery and Native Genocide by Hilary Beckles. I cannot stress enough the importance of every one of us getting this book. iNation, you have Britain's Black Debt? Link me, please, iNation. So I can tell our listeners if you've got this, so they know where to go. And I'm not quite sure where else it is in Jamaica. I'm not quite sure which bookshops it's in. I'm sure it should be at the University Bookshop. It should be there at the University of the West Indies and probably other spaces. But listen, it's important because so much, the research is phenomenal. The learning will just blow your mind. Britain's Black Debt. And Professor Shepherd is reminding me that there's a companion book to Britain's Black Debt. And the companion book by Beckles is How Britain Underdeveloped the Caribbean. How Britain Underdeveloped the Caribbean. So look for that one also. Let us start with Britain's Black Debt. I want us to read that book. And I don't know how you're going to tomorrow. It's Commonwealth Day now, so find a way for you to make people know so we read a book. All right. Let me just quickly, there's some things I wanted to say, one of which was that that island was bought by has been repurchased by the Garifuna people. Also, we talked about Black Rock and the Panama Canal this morning. It is that Africa has responded to Trump's 2.0 era, new opportunities for China. So Africa has responded, and we're hearing some things coming from China-Africa, and this is a China-Africa engagement at the same time. China is, as you know, strident. China has said, if you want war, we're ready for war. They've said this to Trump. If you want economic war, we are ready. If you want a trade war, we are ready. If you want a physical war, we are ready. This is basically what China is saying to Donald Trump and to America. And Pete Hegseth, who is the Minister of Defense, the Secretary of Defense, he has responded to China. So you see, it's an all-out Cold War that is escalating in words. So he's responded to China by saying, it's hostile. May I just say that? So he said, well, we're ready too. Anything you're ready for, we're ready for. So let us see where this is going. where I know it's going is what we see happening with BlackRock. So BlackRock has bought the ports that China owned in Panama. That's interesting. BlackRock is the Illuminati. BlackRock is the deep state. BlackRock is part of the technocracy. Let's just leave that for a minute. Then, what next for the rest of the Caribbean? Because the Caribbean has entered into serious trade deals, economic deals, financial deals, and other deals with China. So, what next? Let us see. Let us see. All right. That's that. Hello, Mr. Bigay. 8 minutes to 10 o'clock and he's off from the ship. That was quick. Oh, when you come off of the ship? Yesterday. I saw you in school uniform. It's which uniform that Bigay? That don't look like nobody uniform. That look like you just get a khaki shirt, put on a white shirt, and then put a tie. That is definitely not your castle uniform.
Well, that's how I used to go to school. That's how I went to school.
I do not believe your short pants you used to wear to school?
In first form.
Oh, so first farm you go on?
Yes.
Everybody needs to see that. Where can we find a photo, please?
I don't.
It's on IRFM website somewhere. IRFM's IG or somewhere. Please look for
I did wear short pants in first.
I saw you in the short pants with the school. I saw you in the school uniform thing, and you had on socks and shoes too.
Oh.
There were on black socks and black shoes or something like that. You were full school uniform.
Yes.
You weren't full YC. So what? I saw you. I mean, listen, I couldn't because I couldn't factor in the short pants. But then Bigay is taking this way too far. Because me no say school uniform day, but why you have to wear short pants? But you went as a grade 7 youth. You went. He said went to the first farmer. Okay, then all first farmer have on tie. I didn't know first farmer.
are not available.
Oh, okay, okay. Mr. Treasurer, I need to talk to you personally, sir, because you see, the people, the York Castle, what do you call themselves for leave school again?
Yorkists.
The Yorkists, or the Egyptians. When you go to school, you used to be called Egyptians.
Egyptians, yes.
Right, so the Egyptians, because the Yorkists have out here do better, but the Egyptians out here, representing York Castle as first form students, not only that them wearing tie with the short pants. And you need to know that, right? You need to know that, Mr. Treasurer, that is what is happening out here. But anyway, it was a good look.
I understand that Mr. Treasurer is on leave.
Mr. Treasurer, yes, but that's not saying that here. He's an
I don't know what is happening.
Mr. Treasurer that turned up on the ship and I'm short pants. He's an alum. So he's also a past student, you know.
Eh?
Mr. Treasurer is also a past student.
I'm not sure. Not in my time.
Bigay, I'm going to tell you something. Listen to me carefully. I'm going to say this only once. The Germans are coming. Hello. Now listen. You remember Radio Northeast?
Yes.
JBC Radio Northeast?
Mm-hmm.
Clyde McKenzie worked there? Mm-hmm. Bob Clark worked there? Mm-hmm. Did you work there?
No.
All right.
But you, Andrew Williams worked there?
I worked there. Not KABU, but Andrea Williams worked there. Yeah. So I worked there. And I was still in school. I was in sixth form at St. Mary High when I was working there. And I had a show that Connie Witter gave me to co-host with another young man. And the show was called Youth Voices every Saturday. And it was live. It wasn't pre-recorded. My first guest was a fellow student, but he was from the York Castle High School. He was a head boy, and his name was Raymond Treasure.
Okay, and I don't have a problem with
I'm in a total cussing mood. Because I don't know how you...
that I don't know every student
that you don't know that Mr. Treasure, who is the current principal...
I am saying to you that it is an indictment on my record.
Indictment.
That I do not know. I do not know every student that went through the gates.
No, that the current principal of your castle...
And that is an indictment.
Is an indictment on you.
Why?
Because you were just in short pants and tie. And you never care if the principal know?
No, Because I never what?
You know, like every principal know that that's what you represent.
If you show up, all you have to do is put me in detention. Like for we appropriate uniform.
So anyway, how was it?
If you thought it was a breach?
How was the cruise?
It was good.
Mm.
It was excellent.
Okay. Me see you. I don't like have fun for true. So is it better than others or just well in line with others?
I don't like to compare. It must be...
Each one stand by itself?
Yeah, man. It must be about the experience you expect of the cruise versus what you actually get. And what I expect...
Like what you see this, let me hear you now, talk again.
Or
you want me to turn on that mic?
No, exactly. What I expected was what I got. And maybe even some.
Okay.
It was a good cruise.
Okay. Highlights?
Yeah, with the highlights.
I get cologne to you smell good. You buy cologne for me gift shop. Look here, you smell expensive and dear, me have to talk. So come here, look at me here. Oh, you smell so good. Now you want me to turn on the other mic, right?
No, not necessarily.
Look here, him come right close to me for talking on my microphone, and him smell really good. So let me turn on female, like I ain't gone. What's the name of that cologne, Big A?
I can't remember.
Well, it smells good. All right, so yeah, what's the highlights?
Let me tell you about something that I experienced that I didn't experience on or have experienced on any other cruise. There was a comedy show that brought out some of the finest Caribbean and Jamaican in particular comedians, which included Johnny Daly and Lemon Parkins, and Kathy, I think her name is Grant, but her first name is Kathy, and Caribbean American comedian called Haitian V. And after going to that show, it dawned on me that Caribbean comedy and Jamaican comedy in particular has gone now on the big scale and can rival stand-up comedy anywhere. Because remember, Jamaican comedy is coming from skits. It was a skit kind of thing, and you know, it had to do with you know that kind of interaction. But now we are able to have entertainers going up, sitting down on them stool, and just entertain you for a half an hour, 45 minutes. That kind of thing, and you are just in stitches.
And this is across the Caribbean, because I know I see this happening in Jamaica, and it's really good with Johnny and them. But so this is Caribbean wide.
This is Caribbean wide.
Oh,
this is Caribbean wide.
I didn't realize.
And you know, the craft is being honed. It is not. We're not taking it for granted. It would seem, based on the interviews I've had with these entertainers, they are actually honing their crafts. There are little outlets that they're using. The Comedy Club in Kingston, for example,
yes, right,
is a place where these upcoming comedians and these well-established ones too can go and they hone their craft. So when they get opportunities such as the one I saw on the cruise, and it was just par excellence.
And let me just ask you this, because in relation to, so we've had comedians, you know, who have really broken through some of the broken through the Jamaican Caribbean market and gone into like ethnic North American market, like an Oliver Samuels, Murphy and Oliver, Boyle Johnson.
But normally it is plays and skits and that kind of thing. We didn't break through.
Not just a stand-up comedy.
In the stand-up comedy kind of arena. Yeah. And this is what I'm talking about. But in particular, stand-up comedy. We have broken through, and I believe that we are doing very, very well.
I'm very happy to hear that. I know that I see Christopher working on this in some serious ways over a period of time. As a matter of fact, especially during COVID. Remember they had these, it was mainly online, that you would see somebody pop up every now and again with and I think it wasn't random. I think it was planned during that period, you know. But to see kind of go out like that, and this is something you think will break through the ethnic market, or more likely stay within the North American.
As it continues to grow, I believe it will break through and go even mainstream.
That would be great, because we see the rise of that again, especially where we see...
Because you probably would have to modify your product as you go along and morph it into something that is understandable in other markets, right? But I don't see why not. In the very same way we can understand American and English comedy.
Yes.
I don't see why it is that we can they can understand our comedy. And, you know...
Yeah.
And
that was well received, and you're saying...
It was very well received.
Right. Jamaican humor is an interesting one, but I think even with TikTok and the whole social media space, where the Jamaican language is more prevalent now, that people are understanding it.
Well, are understanding it.
Yeah.
You know. And that is not to discount the musical experience.
True.
You know, that was also very good. The persons who have been Love and Harmony cruisers, or they call them the harmonizers over the years, they told me that this is the best lineup so far. So
what was the lineup?
The lineup was excellent. You're talking about Beenie Man, Bounty Killer, Capleton, Louis Culture, Elephant Man.
Well, I saw a clip of Louis Culture. You know me not gonna see it. I mean. and
then when you add Beresford Hammond, Richie Stevens, and Sanchez to that, then you just get better.
True. Yeah. Well, it did, and the ship was full as usual. Like cruise was fully booked.
Yes.
I saw that.
Yes, it was. And what was outstanding is the camaraderie between the fellow harmonizers. It was just an easy going atmosphere where you can talk to anybody and everybody.
So people know people now. These are like repeat people. These are repeat guests. Repeat harmonizers.
No, not only because this was their biggest ship so far.
Oh,
and it accommodated a lot of the repeats, but also a lot of the newbies. And this is my second time on this cruise. And I considered myself a newbie because it was 4 or 5 years ago was my first time. So a lot of the persons I would not be familiar with this time. But it was just a warm atmosphere. And, you know, IRFM was all over the place.
Yes, and the links were really good.
Our
yes, the links were very, very good. And the pictures coming out beautiful too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic.
Yeah. You know, I loved what IRFM did, in fact, because you kind of feel like you did up on a cruise. And not you feel like you were on it, and then secondly you feel like I'm going to have to be on the next one. And
that's the point. And that's the point.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this. Maybe I am giving away a little bit too much, but next time we plan to even get deeper into the way we present the broadcast.
Okay, I can see that.
The way we interact.
I can see that. I can see that. Because, and literally, without you even telling me, you know, you want more. You as a person who the back yourself, who just viewing, you want more. So, however the more is coming, we welcome it. Thank you so much. But good work, IRFM, and the pictures that came out of it, the videos, the clips, everybody looked really good. And I think they got a really wide cross section of just the harmonizers.
Our social media team was working over.
It was brilliant.
Kudos must go to them too.
Yeah. So nice work. You rested?
No.
But you look rested. You look good. You look rested.
No, not nearly rested.
Okay.
I left the cruise yesterday and went to the airport.
Okay.
From the airport to Jamaica with very little time.
So why didn't you just come off when they came to Jamaica Saturday? Oh, it was Friday.
Because our mission would not have been completed.
Okay. No, I mean you, like, are you up for work today?
No, but I had things to do. I didn't finish my reporting. I was sent on assignment that was not complete.
True. But so it was in Jamaica when?
So
Friday?
it was Thursday.
Oh, it was. No, my bad. I thought it was yesterday or Friday. So it was in Jamaica Thursday. So how it go now? It came on. What do you go to Miami? You took the plane to Miami?
Yes. And then from there you journey over to Cayman, then from Cayman to Jamaica, and then from Jamaica back to Miami, which gives you 2 full days at sea.
Okay. Wow, it sounds good. I mean, and I watched it. I was with you all of the way, and it really did sound good. And like me said, look good also. But I wasn't aware of the comedy. I don't know why that comedy.
Yeah, man.
That part missed me.
It was, and there were other little things, that weren't necessarily Jamaican, right? Because there was also a magic show by a Chinese, by a Chinese act, which I guess was part of the ship.
Okay.
The Norwegian experience. They had 1 or 2 other little things. There was a violin concert that was also there, and a lot of persons didn't go because it didn't fit into the Jamaican culture kind of thing. What was there?
We have some wicked violence in Jamaica here who...
No, as I'm saying, it was just there was part of the ship's entertainment.
I can understand that.
You know what I mean?
I get it. And the food was non-stop.
The food was non-stop. Pretty much.
Well, Biggie, it seemed to me like this cruise, this specific one, was booked before it even announced. Like, there wasn't a lot of advertising around it. It seemed like it was fully booked before it was announced properly.
No, I don't think that was the case. I think when IRFM got on board, we drove.
I mean, IRFM is always on board. But I think
when we started the actual promotion.
You mean this year for this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, because it was a bigger ship, It was twice the size. Well, not twice, but almost twice the size of the one the previous year. And I think that sales were sluggish.
And the minute they add start,
Nick would probably give you a better picture of that. But my understanding, it is when we got behind it, the cabin started filling up fast and furious.
I would like to give away 5 tickets on my program next year. 2 for me. So Nick, 5 tickets are given away next year, 2 for me. All right, so this is where, Becky, I leave it to you. It's 9 minutes after 10 o'clock. Good to have you back. I didn't never realize you're going on cruise until it was...
Yeah, it's good.
I know you did tell me you were going, but it did slip me. You told me you were going.
Oh.
No, but it did slip me. That it was that weekend.